Good Lord, man, I got chills from that one. Man, Whitney Houston, as great of a singer as ever existed on God's green earth. Seriously, my God. I mean, I guess maybe as a trained singer, which I am, uh, maybe like I mean, it's like everybody knows how great of a singer that Whitney Houston was. But if you've been, if you've ever trained as a singer, it's even more mind blowing how great she was. The diction, the pitch, everything was perfect. Just as great of a singer as has ever walked the earth. Just a pure vocalist to her core, and we miss her very, very much. As you heard, that was the Star Spangled Banner by one Miss Whitney Houston. This is Straight Out of the Cannon with me, Scott Cannon, here on WLTH 1370 AM. It is 7:38 in the PM here on Friday, July the 3rd, 2026. And the reason I started the segment with the Star Spangled Banner is because tomorrow America is turning 250.
Happy birthday to
Yes.
you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Yes, 250 years old. So America's 250. But I think it's very, very poignant to ask, how is she doing? How is she doing right now? In some instances, she's not looking too good. You know, as the United States is reaching its 250th anniversary in the year of our Lord, 2026, this has become a country of such contrast and divides. I mean, like, it still has remarkable strengths. America still is great at a lot of things. You know, we still give the world Whitney Houstons, okay? I mean, you know, we still give the world Michael Jacksons. We still, you know, we still are the cultural powerhouse of the world. We dominate global entertainment still through Hollywood, streaming, music, sports, gaming, and social media. Even the stuff that isn't American, like, say, K-pop, is so derivative of what we're doing. Like, it is so, like, mind-boggling how the Koreans are literally able to sort of repackage our music and sell it to us. Sell our own music to us in a very watered down way. But I guess that's been the dream from day one, to make black music without black people. That's been the goal of the music industry since day one, basically. That was what Elvis was there for. That's what, you know, everything from the Osmonds, the New Kids on the Block, and virtually everything else has been about, you know, having black music without black people, actually. But still, we are still the global powerhouse culturally. Our universities are still attracting a lot of the world's top students, though Trump has put the kibosh on a lot of that. You know, but of course he's decided he's going to let, I think, 600,000 Chinese people come here, which has made a lot of people in MAGA very upset. We're the global leader in artificial intelligence and biotechnology, in aerospace, and of course, capitalism. And, you know, that's a lot of the good stuff about America, but there are a lot of challenges. We have a lot of things ripping us apart. We are increasingly divided over what even being an American means. Is being an American, being a legacy American like myself, like many of the African Americans listening to this show, legacy black Americans, and say the Mayflower white people and the Hispanics who've been here since California was Mexico, and New Mexico was Mexico, and Texas was Mexico, and Colorado was Mexico, and all those other places were Mexico? Or is it an idea that you could just, you know, sort of come across the border, decide you're an American, and be an American? So we can't even really agree on that. Obviously, social media has exacerbated the deep fissures we've had in our country when it comes to issues of race, gender, sexual orientation. Like it's very much, very much culturally. We very much culturally divided. Now, I do think, as I said earlier, I think a lot of that is by design. I think the liberals and the conservatives keep us obsessed with culture war issues so that we don't get together and fight the class war and really realize who our real enemy are. I think so many people, I was just thinking about this last week after I got off the air. I had a conversation with Vic. I don't think a lot of Americans understand how close we were. And I wasn't alive at this point, but as somebody who's, read a lot about that time period, the 1960s, the 1970s, we almost eradicated poverty in this country in the early 70s. A lot of people don't know that. Black people went from 90% poverty to 30% poverty in 30 years. In 30 years, from 1940 to 1970. We saw historic levels of improvement in quality of life and education. Post-World War II America looks like it's going to be the best that it ever got for us in this country. I wish I'd lived to see a lot of it. By the time I came around, America was already declining and going backwards thanks to the sort of Reaganomics and those types of things. But much of what we've become is in strong contrast to what we were. Like I hear people talk about socialism and communism and social democrats. And like, if you look at the early 20th century, especially before the Cold War, there was so much progress being made on the front lines of the labor disputes. And like I said, communists and the socialists and those types of groups of people were to thank for a lot of that stuff. People talk about New York City's mayor, Zoran Mamdani, because he's a democratic socialist, as some sort of bizarre outlier, when New York's greatest mayor ever, and a man who was literally voted by Time magazine to be the greatest big city mayor of all time, Fiorello LaGuardia, was not a democratic socialist. He was just an out-and-out socialist. And to this day, half of the city of New York is still named after Fiorello LaGuardia because of the things he implemented, the policies he implemented. And so they give us this political polarization to keep us, whether you're a leftist or just a garden variety populist like myself, or if you're further to the left, a communist or a socialist or, a progressive, they keep us really occupied with the gay stuff and the trans stuff and the gender wars and all this other stuff. And social media has been a big part of that, and why we feel so helpless at this point, this later date in 2026. Also, religious affiliations. That's another thing that has been used to divide us here in this country. I'm with what Malcolm X said. When Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam, he said, look, man, we're going to have to put our religions in the closet, okay? I might be a Muslim, you might be a Christian, but we got to understand we're working for the same things, fundamentally. And that's what all Americans need to start thinking. I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care if you're a Christian. I don't care if you're an atheist or an agnostic. If you're on the right side of this war that we're fighting for our lives, on the right side of the class war, you're my brother or my sister. I don't care what color you are, what gender you are, what, religion you are. None of that matters. And so we're very polarized culturally. That was done on purpose. They did this to America. Many political scientists are describing America in 2026 as the most polarized it's been since the 19th century. We're seeing very close elections, high voter participation compared with much of the early 2000s, increasing use of executive power by Bush, then Obama, then Trump, you know, greater influence over the courts. Look at what we just talked about with the Supreme Court under Donald Trump. We're having huge disputes over immigration, abortion, gun rights, health care, taxes, federal versus state authority, foreign policy. These things seem like they are just indefatigable. But again, we deal with these issues by coming together, by recognizing who our real enemies are. The ones who won't let us have health care, the one who sent the jobs overseas, the one who import millions of immigrants to drive down wages and to dilute the economic, political, and cultural influence that we have here. That is how we deal with that. America in 2026 is more racially diverse than any point in its history. White non-Hispanics are now only 58% of the country. Hispanics and Latinos are about 20% of the population. Black people are holding steady around 13 to 14% of the population. Asians, about 7-8% of the population. And we're having a growing number of multiracial people who are mixed, which again, after desegregation, was just going to happen. Now, that doesn't mean that we haven't made progress. I know a lot of people just want to focus on the bad things that are going on here in America, but look, man, regardless of what a lot of the nutnicks on social media and a lot of the blackity black people are saying, segregation ending was an unequivocally good thing. Okay? Black people were not better off during Jim Crow. I don't know what books you're reading, or, well, I take that back. Most of those people go to YouTube University or Wikipedia University and get that segregation was better for black people because at least we had our own business. Poverty was 90%, bro. Poverty was 90% in the 1940s. It was 60% in the 1950s. It's 20% today. Black people were completely locked out of virtually all political and economic institutions. We were paying taxes but not being represented because we had no political representation. But we're still being taxed. That literally is one of the things that got this country started, is because they couldn't take being taxed without representation. Educational opportunities have expanded for some. Representation in politics, business, entertainment has become more diverse. I guess that is true in some ways. But we have seen the increase in wealth disparities between whites and blacks. Tim Black actually had a great article about this, I think last week or the week before last, where he talked about how by 1980, the black-white wealth gap had almost completely closed. I think at one point it was one in five, 1 to 5, or 5 to 1, should I say? The black-white wealth gap was 5 to 1. It's significantly opened up since that point. At 250, we're still having these huge debates over policing, obviously in black communities and urban communities. We're seeing ICE literally shoot American citizens in the face and being given a go-ahead to do that by a criminal administration. Criminal justice system, we talk about that a lot here on this show, how racist the legal system is, how black people are 50% of the exonerations. Black men specifically are 50% of the exonerations in this country for rapes and murders, because black men regularly get falsely charged with rape and murder and other serious crimes. So there's significant debates over immigration. Again, I don't think there should be. The left was pretty united about this many years ago. about mass immigration, how it drives down wages, dilutes the economic, political, and cultural influence of working class people. Affirmative action and DEI programs. Again, America is not about meritocracy, nor has it ever been. Affirmative action and DEI were just about saying that instead of Donald Trump just being able to hire his kids and his cronies, maybe you could get somebody, black or Hispanic in there and sort of even it out, level the playing field a little bit. We still have large educational achievement gaps because there's huge disparity in funding between poor schools and wealthier schools in this country that you don't see in much of the Western world. In countries like Finland, they basically demand everybody go to the same schools, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whatever. So that makes sure that everybody gets the same quality of education. We talked about the wealth disparities and, of course, housing segregation, redlining. That's a very, very, very big situation. Financially, America is still the largest in the world by nominal GDP. We still have a strong stock market, still creating highly innovative technology. The U.S. dollar is still the Federal Reserve currency. We have low unemployment by historical standards, though, you can't really go by the government data, like it's pretty manipulated. But we face many challenges economically. Our debt, the national debt, is exceeding 37 trillion. Endless wars have not helped the situation. We were spending, I think, $1 billion a day or something crazy like that in Iran currently, before the war started. Persistent housing affordability issues, rising healthcare costs, high child care, and education expenses. We have an aging population that puts pressure on Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare. And as I said, wealth inequality has grown substantially in recent decades. By some estimates, the wealthiest 1% own 1/3 of all U.S. household wealth, while the bottom half owns only a tiny fraction. America is still the world's largest military power, spending more than, I think, the next 9 countries combined in military expenditure. We're one of the 2 largest economies alongside China. Overall, America is at a turning point. We are at a turning point where we are basically in the next decade or 2 going to figure out where we are. Is the decline that we've been in since the 1980s going to turn into a collapse? Or are we going to right the ship and turn things around? Some days I'm hopeful, some days I'm not. I'm going to be honest. Recently, I've seen a lot of people realize how full of crap the Democratic and Republican parties are. You're seeing a lot of extra push into these sort of outsider candidates on the left and the right. And I think that's an encouraging sign, because the 2 mainstream corporate parties have done everything else to sort of keep us on this track that we're going, this neoliberal hellscape that we've been living in a lot of ways. I'm encouraged by seeing what Zoran Mondani's doing in New York, and we just had a very giant victory in Colorado. Malat Kiros beat her longtime incumbent opponent in Colorado, who had been there for 30 years. And really, people are sick and tired of the military-industrial complex. They're sick and tired of AIPAC. They're sick and tired of wealth disparity. They're sick and tired of unaffordable housing. Whoever finds a way to make sure that the next generation of people can get married, have children, and buy a house, whoever figures that out That's who's going to win. And so, you know, before I get out of here, I'll leave you with a quote from Ralph Nader about Barack. He said it about Barack Obama, but I think it appeals to all of us. He said, we all have the opportunity and we have the option to either be Uncle Sam or Uncle Tom. It really is up to us.